weird that Popeye the Slayer Man, out of all of the 2025 movies that have just been released, was the one that I was the most excited to actually watch, because I love a ridiculous B-movie, and this sounds like an incredibly ridiculous B-movie. So thank you to the Horde member that came to my comment section and was like, Hordes, do you know that this movie is finally out? Because of course I was gonna watch this movie, and I am happy to play guinea pig, so you don't have to. But if you don't know anything about Popeye the Slayer Man from 2025, let me quickly fill you in. Popeye the Slayer Man from 2025 is a B-slasher horror. A curious group of friends sneak into an abandoned spinach canning factory to investigate the legend of the Sailor Man, who is said to haunt the factory and the local docks. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, but as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I am now going to go and watch Popeye the Slayer Man off camera, so that way if you too want to watch the movie about a ghost version of Popeye haunting a spinach factory, nothing will be spoiled for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, and I keep it spoiler free here on my channel because nobody, and I mean nobody, likes spoilers.
He is so strong but so gentle.
A very quick side note before I start my review, when the VMO Worldwide logo pops up at the start, it sounds like the opening to GTA San Andreas, which is never going to be a bad thing in my world. If you know me and my channel, you will already know that this type of movie is very much within my wheelhouse, and I have seen quite a few movies that fall into this category over the past few years. We're talking lower budget, B-grade slasher movies that play on something to do with childhood nostalgia, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I would say that these are a guilty pleasure of mine, but I have no guilt and will openly admit that I actually do quite like watching these movies. I like to see how ridiculous they are, because some of them are just a little bit weird and out there, and others are just bad, and occasionally you'll come across one that is so ridiculous it's actually worth watching. But I will also put my hand up and say this type of movie I think is really starting to grate on a lot of horror movie fans' nerves. Like, they are churning this sort of stuff out for fun at this point. Like, so bear in mind, I understand that this one isn't necessarily gonna be for everybody, but hear me out, because this one was actually quite a pleasant surprise. Bear in mind that this is a B-movie, it has a B-movie budget, but I honestly think that it does actually use this budget really well, and you would not think that this was actually a B-movie slasher movie, because this, Blood and Honey wishes that it could have been Popeye the Slayer Man when it first came out.
Sure, Jan.
If you grew up watching Scooby-Doo, this next statement will probably make sense to you. This entire movie feels like, do you remember at the start of every episode of Scooby-Doo, they would establish what the location is and like what the theme is going to be for the episode, and then the big villain would get revealed, and then all of a sudden Mystery Inc. would show up and they would do the whole,
okay gang, let's like split up and search for clues.
and then Mystery Inc. would unmask the villain and everybody would be like, thank you, Mystery Inc. And the guy would be like, I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids and you dumb dog. Like, that is what the whole of this plot feels like. Like, it would not be out of place if Mystery Inc. suddenly pulled up with their van and were like, we're here to solve the mystery of Popeye the Slayer Man, aka the ghost of the Sailor Man. Like, seriously, I was waiting for Mystery Inc. to turn up, but instead we got a documentary film crew who don't actually have any filming equipment. Like, I think that this has got to be a budgeting thing. The group of, they're at the 20-year-olds in this are supposed to be making a documentary film about the legend that is Popeye the Slayer Man. They have a one-time chance to get into the abandoned canning spinach factory. I can't speak today. The UK's clocks went forward an hour, so just bear with me on this one. They head into the spinach factory, which is going to be demolished the next day, and they don't take any equipment with them to actually document the inside of the facility. Like, at no point does anybody whip out their phones to take photos. Like, what kind of documentary film crew doesn't actually document anything?
That's suspicious.
If you know the basics of Popeye the Sailor Man, you can understand this movie. Man eats spinach, gets extra buff, can perform extraordinary feats of strength that would make every superhero jealous. That's it. That's all you need to know. The entire movie, for the most part, takes place in the spinach canning factory, which has got a very questionable history behind it, but I won't spoil that. But there is a plot twist in this, and all I can say is I spotted this twist coming from at least 10 miles away. Like, a mile away isn't even close. Like, it's about as subtle as a brick to the face. The acting is a bit all over the place, I will say that, but for the most part, the main five, I'm not going to include Joey in this because I'll talk about him at a different point because, dear God, do I hate the character of Joey. They're all like, you know that in high school, the drama class? Well, these are the kids that would be in the school productions every year, but just not in the lead roles. Like, that's the quality of acting. But I can kind of overlook that with it being a B movie, and most of these actors have only ever been in B movies, so congrats to them for being in a big feature movie. And it does help as well that this movie is quite pacey. It's only an hour and 27 minutes, including the credits, so it is very zippy. Like, I didn't realise that I'd been watching the movie for half an hour when I first paused it to go and get a drink. Like, I felt like it was maybe like 10, 15 minutes in. That's how pacey this is at times. I love that Popeye is so hench, but clearly forgot leg day because he's got really loose pants. Like, clearly, if you put that much effort into leg day and chest day and shoulder day, you would have legs that look like two whiskey barrels on top of each other. You would have thighs and calves, and no, the budget did not stretch to giving the actor really hench legs to go with his really hench arms, unfortunately. But it just tickled me. It just tickled me. Like, we've all seen that guy in the gym, and Popeye, unfortunately, in this, is that guy in the gym. But my issue with his character, unfortunately, is a budgeting thing, and that is when you zoom in close up on this guy, it is very obvious that it is a foam mask complete with bib and, like, chest and back piece, because oh, it's so unfortunate. The ears are an absolute giveaway. Like, every time it cuts to the side of his face, there's just the little hole where the actor can hear, but they haven't glued it down to his ear. He's got a very limited range of motion with it being a mask rather than a prosthetic in multiple pieces. Like, you can glue a prosthetic piece down to an actor's face, and you can glue a mask down to an actor's face, which I think is what they've done in this, because Popeye can basically move his mouth up and down, and that's about it. He can't emote anything because it's a mask. When you zoom in on it, he's got a scar on the, I want to say right side of his face, but how it's been sculpted is the brow is quite predominant, so it doesn't let any light into, like, so you can see the actor's eyes behind it unless the light is, like, directly in front of his face. So it looks like Popeye's got a missing eye for part of this. I did find it hilarious that Popeye's got a calling card in this, and that is every time you smell pipe smoke, Popeye is supposed to be like, I'm on my way. But what actually happens is they smell pipe smoke. Popeye turns up and that pipe ain't lit. Like, nothing's coming out of it. Like, that is just, it's a wonderfully useless prop. And to top it off, the whole idea is Popeye a ghost? Like, is the legend true? Like, you don't know what Popeye is supposed to, like, is he a ghost? Is he a real person? Whatever. There is a scene in this where there's a girl in the office of the canning factory and Popeye just casually opens the door and walks in. I absolutely lost it laughing at that scene. Like, way to ruin any kind of, like, illusion around whether he's a ghost or not, because he's clearly not if he's got physical form. The practical effects are pretty good, I will say that, considering that this is a B-grade budget movie. And I'm very happy to say that they have fully gone for practical effects rather than going for CGI, because dear God, would that have been a mistake. And I also think that this ties in with the kills, because all the kills in this are gory as you like, which is always going to be a selling point for my twisted little heart. But every single one of them, for the most part, ties into the idea of Popeye having superhuman strength, because he often kills people with either his bare hands or incredibly heavy items that the normal everyday person couldn't do. Like Last time I checked, I couldn't pick up the entire back end of a car to stop it driving away. You might be able to if you're on, say, the World's Strongest Man competition, but not the standard everyday person like myself, for damn sure. I'm bringing it up again, but this has got a kill in it that is directly out of the Dark Pictures anthology Man of Medan game, and I'm not going to say which one it is, but if you watch this movie and you've played that game, you will see this kill and go, oh, it's that one. It's one of the ones where you can mess up the quick time events and accidentally get one of your characters killed. And I saw it and burst out laughing.
Different, but same.
Miscellaneous points this time. The gobby woman at the start of the movie absolutely deserved to get killed by Popeye. Like, Popeye's just killed you dealers and you have the nerve to just be like, you're a monster. Love, how about thank you and run the fuck away? Rather than being like, I don't like the man that just saved my life while I was being hunted down by two men who were clearly going to do more than just shake me for cash. There is another character in this though, and I hate him. He's called Joey. I mentioned him briefly earlier. He's the one character that I was waiting for Popeye to just punch his head clean off his shoulders, because this guy is vile, and there's a reason that I have to bring this guy up. Not only is he abusive to his girlfriend, like physically and emotionally and verbally, he's a homophobe with a gun, which is not a good, like, he makes some quite nasty homophobic leading comments about one of the other main characters in this, who is interested in another one of the characters. He's not like, he's just friends with this girl. There's nothing more to it than that. And this guy he's part of the incel community is all I can say with his beliefs. And his bestie mateys, one of them needs to go and find new friends, and the other one needs to be in jail.
You're a bad, bad man.
In the end, I am actually going to give Popeye the Slayer Man from 2025 a 3 out of 5 stars. And I thought that this movie was going to be horrible. Like, I thought this was going to be Dinosaur Hotel levels of horrible, but it really wasn't. I thought between a 2.5 and a 3 stars for this, but I decided to give it a 3 because I felt like it was more deserving of a 3. If you like this kind of movie, you will like Popeye the Slayer Man. It is ridiculous. The plot for this really is ridiculous, but it's the sort of movie that you can watch with your friends, order pizza and just have a giggle at, because it's really not as terrible as I think people are expecting it to be. I think so many people have been burned by this kind of movie, particularly Blood and Honey, that they are very reluctant to give movies like this a chance. And I think that when Steamboat comes out, and I think it's next month now, it will kind of be the same scenario over again. Like, people are going to see that and think, oh god, Blood and Honey was horrible, I'm never giving this a chance. But Popeye, I think, actually deserves a chance if you like this kind of, like, this is coming from me. Like, if you think you will like this one, watch the movie. It's certainly a fun for a single watch kind of movie, and if they do a sequel, of course I will watch it, because why not? I'm invested at this point, we'll put it that way. But my only request is if they do a sequel, I would like Olive Oil to actually be in it. And I would like Bluto, please. Like, I want Bluto as, like, the final boss. Like, you think you've beaten Popeye, here comes the main event. Here's the mega buff, even more insane version. Like, that's my only request. But my opinion isn't the only one that matters, which begs the question, should you personally watch Popeye the Slayer Man from 2025? If you like your horror movies flavoured with nostalgia-based slashers, gory kills, buff villains, physical crushing of skulls, spinach, anything that's listed here, then you will probably like Popeye the Slayer Man from 2025. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching Popeye the Slayer Man from 2025. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on it down in the comment section down below. And if you are interested in watching this one, check the description bar because there will be a link, as always, to justwatch.com so you can find out where it is streaming in your country. If you would like to know where else you can find me, I am also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, where I post every single horror movie that I watch, not just the ones that I talk about here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I'll be back on Friday with another solo movie review, and it's another 2025 release. And all I can say is, back when I did my movie video talking about the movies that no one was talking about that were coming out this year, I mentioned The Rule of Jenny Penn, which is finally out, and everybody is now talking about this movie and saying that it is wild. So we're finally watching The Rule of Jenny Penn because I've finally been able to get my hands on it. So until next time, bye.